friends, and welcome back to Ghouls Night In, the spooky chat show with your best ghoul friends. I'm Penny Snark,
And I'm Midge Munster.
and you know something that me and Midge like to do?
What do we like to
What do
do,
we like to
Penny?
do? We like to play games.
We do.
And I feel like this is something that comes up not like it's not like the top 5 most asked things that I ever get, but people do ask about like what are spooky board games to play? What are video games that you like? And we thought that it would be really fun to just have a casual chit chat episode and share some of our recommendations with all of you
Yeah.
guys, whether you are gonna stock up on them for spooky season, or now that we are in like a horrific heat wave this summer,
Yeah.
maybe you want to stay in the air conditioning and play some games.
I'll tell you what, literally nothing is better to me than a spooky board game night. That is like
Truly.
like peak happiness for me is sitting around a table with like girl dinner and 12 different spooky board games. That's when
Yes.
I'm at my happiest.
All right. You know what? Since you mentioned them, let's start talking about board games.
Hell yeah.
Do you want to go first, Midge?
Oh, sure, why not? So the first one I'm bringing to the party is the game Medium, which
Ooh.
is slightly spooky. It's spooky adjacent because it's got a bit of a mystic psychic element
Ooh.
attached to it. So this is a less of a board game, I guess, but more of a party game for 2 to 8 players. And what you are doing is you each have your own hand of cards with words on them, and you're partnered with the people on either side of you. And you are trying to put down your word cards and then psychically link those two words
Hmm.
with a third word that you both try
Okay.
to get from each other. So basically, Penny, if you and I were paired, I might put down a card that says like spider, and then you might put down a card that says pasta. And then we would have to psychically connect, and then you go 1, 2, 3, and you try to say the same word.
Okay.
You get 3 attempts to say the same word. It's taboo rules. You can't say any of the previous words that
Mm.
either of you have said to connect. And then you get a 1, 2, or 3 token, depending on how many tries it took you. And at the end of the game, each team like flips their tokens and calculates how many points they have, and then that determines who wins the game. It's
Fun.
really really fun. The art of the box is really beautiful. It's like a little fortune teller over a crystal ball, and that's how you determine as well how the game is progressing. When the game like ends, you pull a card out of the deck that's like a shattered crystal ball, and that's when you know that it's time to stop. uh, so this one's a lot of fun. It's a really good, easy setup game. That's why I tend to recommend, and why I started with this one.
Yeah.
If you're not a complex game person, this is a really easy one to bring to a party or to just play. Last minute, if your friends are over and you have an hour and you're like, oh, we want to play a game. This one goes up really quickly, and once you get in the swing of it, goes very very fast. And it's just really hilarious because a lot of times people say the darndest things. So Medium is my first recommendation for a fun spooky little game.
That's fun. All right. Well, I'm going to stick with your theme
Mm.
and say that the game that I would recommend is called Mysterium.
That's the next one on my list.
Hey, yes. As we were going this, I'm like, I know we'll have a lot of the same ones.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
summer is so good. So Mysterium is also about mediums in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a really interesting game where the concept is that all of the players are mediums and one player is selected to be the ghost, and you are trying to solve a mystery of what happened, but the ghost is the only one who knows what happened, and they cannot speak. They can only give you hints through these like really interesting like art cards. And so
Vision cards.
vision cards that have like
Ooh.
very weird like and interesting like illustrations on them. So the Ghost is trying to give you hints on what thing you should pick, but it's so hard to know what they are thinking. So
Yeah.
you kind of are trying, like Mitch said, you are kind of like also trying to mind meld here, because sometimes you'll like lay down a card and you'll be like, oh, this card is mostly red and there's red on this like suspect card, so they must be
Mhm.
trying to tell me it's this suspect, when the ghost is actually in their mind being like, no, you idiot, like there's a violin on this card, and so I'm telling you it's the musician.
Right.
So you kind of like are all like trying to talk through and figure these things out and make your guesses about what the ghost's visions are trying to tell you, as it's like counting down the hours. So you are like losing time and you have to figure out solve the mystery before time runs out.
Also talk about beautiful design of a game. I
Yes.
love the board of this game. It's so pretty. There is also a Mysterium Carnival edition as
Ooh.
well that I played recently. That's like I have I have a thing for a spooky carnival moment. Like any
Yes.
kind of weird circus thing is my jam. So I think it's called Mysterium Park is the name of the new
Intriguing.
carnival edition. So if you get really into Mysterium, you can also purchase that as well, and it's a fun twist on the game.
I love that.
Awesome. Well, I have one more in my board games department, and that is the game Campy Creatures. Have
Mm,
you played this one,
I have
Penny?
not.
Oh, it's so fun. It's a little it's kind of part card game, part board game. It's I feel like it's very like if you were like a Pokemon or Magic the Gathering type person, this is a really really fun game. You're um playing you all have a hand of cards that have really, first of all, the art is so cute, like really cute monster characters, and you're battling it out with other people's creatures basically. um this is a 2 to 5 player, I believe. Yeah. And again, kind of a good like mid level game. Like it's a little bit more what am I trying to say? Involved, I guess,
Mhm.
than like Medium or Mysterium. But once you figure it out, it's a pretty quick, like 30-minute game. But you're playing as like a mad scientist, basically. um, and you're trying to get other like mortal people for your experiments.
Mhm.
And so then rather than like you going out and doing it, you are using your army of creatures to go out and do it. But you're also kind of like bidding against the other scientists at the table. So you're trying to bluff and like get different each creature has a different like level or ability,
Mhm.
and you're trying to put down like one higher than what everybody else is putting down at the table. It's very difficult to explain, but I promise it's not that hard to play.
Yeah. So
um
many games are like that where you're like, once you
yeah.
start, it makes sense.
Yeah. But it's really fun, especially if you're playing kind of with people you know fairly well
Mhm.
too, because it's a lot of like poker face kind of action as well, and you can kind of test how well you know what people are gonna do.
Yeah.
I love a strategy game like that. So, Campy Creatures, very very fun, and you get some really great just like monster art of the
Yeah.
classic esque monsters, but with a twist.
That's
10 of
super
10.
fun. Cool. I have two board games
Yeah,
left.
give me.
So the first one is called Gloom,
Oh, I haven't
and
played this.
oh my gosh, I think you would really love this. So Gloom is also, so it's like a kind of similar, it's like a deck building game and kind
Mm-hmm.
of things. So it is very
Oh,
much for the Edward Gorey
I was
and
gonna
Lemony
say,
Snicket girls.
I just saw this at a tabletop shop literally
Yes.
last weekend, and I was like, "What is that?" It looks like Edward Gorey illustrated it.
Mhm. Yes,
Okay.
it is so fun. So the concept of the game, it is like it's a storytelling game, really. So the concept is that each player is in control of a ill-fated family. So the concept is that as you are drawing cards, you can make bad things happen to your family, and you can make good things happen to other people to stop them,
From
because the end goal is to ruin your family.
That's
And
awesome.
each of the cards will have like a little hint, kind of little like theme on it, but then you as the player are encouraged to like tell a story about why this happened. So
Oh, so there's like a little
when
bit of improv involved?
yeah, and you can kind of
Fun.
take it as far as you want. This is super fun in a group of people who are like into improv or role play or something like that,
Mhm.
because I remember when I played this, I had a gentleman where I was like, oh well, you know, here I'm playing this card. He wept at the grave of his mother and he's brokenhearted. And then someone else played another card that was like, ah yes, but he was next to a duck pond and a bunch of ducklings started following him like he was their mother, and it was so cute.
So
And
it was
so
fun.
it's so fun. So you are like trying to build up enough like bad things on each person that you can kill them off. And you're trying to stop anyone else from being able to kill off the members of their family.
Oh my
So
gosh,
it
that's so
is
funny.
an absolute hoot. Super fun. Definitely recommend. And my other one is actually a game that we played together,
I was gonna
Midge.
I didn't include this because I figured you were gonna bring it.
Yes. It is Betrayal at the House on the Hill.
Oh, no, this is not what I thought.
No, what?
I thought you would for sure were gonna bring the Haunted Mansion game.
Oh,
Have you played
no.
it?
No.
Oh
I
my
have not played the
gosh.
Haunted Mansion game.
Okay. I also had Betrayal at House on the Hill in a different category, but please.
Oh, you put it into okay. I
But
guess I
please,
was going with general, like,
yeah, please continue.
board game Charlie's. So those for those who are not familiar, this game is basically like you are like living out a horror movie. So it starts with everybody being an adventurer who's coming to this haunted house, and you are building the haunted house as you take turns by flipping over different tiles. So it's like, oh, the conservatory, the ballroom, a smoking pit, and things like that. And within the different rooms, there are spooky artifacts, there are like weird happenings, and the game is building. And as you are like marking up these spooky omens that you've collected, eventually the haunt will begin, and that triggers some kind of spooky horror scenario. So the game comes with a book, and based on like who caused it in what room, it gives you like a little plot line, and one of the players is now the villain and has turned against you and are going to be like piloting all of the monsters potentially or things like that, as the rest of you try to complete your own win condition to escape the house.
Yeah. I played this for the first time with Penny the last time I was in Milwaukee,
Yeah.
and this was the most fun I've ever had playing a game.
It is so much fun.
And that's saying a lot because like I am a board game girl. I love games. I cannot get enough of, and all the ones we're talking about today I have so much fun playing, but this was like, see, and let me now go into why I had this,
Yeah.
because I also, Penny and I both have like a tabletop
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
category, and I did put this in the like if you love a tabletop game
True.
category.
Yes.
It is still a board game, but it has a lot of D&D like elements in it. There's a
This is
lot of
true.
like
I see where
rolling
you put it
and
there.
yeah. And so yeah, this was like horror D&D. It was so much fun. So much fun. Get
Yeah.
this game. It's
Get
like
this game.
$50. It's worth every penny because there's what, like didn't we look at there's like 136 different scenarios or something that
Yeah,
you can
yeah, yeah, there's a bunch in, like, the base game, and then there's, like, expansions that
expansions.
you can get if you want. It's so much fun. I have played it many times now, and I've never gotten the same haunt,
The
scenario,
first time I
which is
looked at it, I
great.
was like, "That's an expensive game," and then I realized, I'm like, "Oh, you could play this
Yes.
a billion times and never play the same game. It's totally worth it."
Yeah, it is a blast. Hi that definitely, like, the top of my if you only get one spooky game, I would
This is
get
the
that.
one, yeah. Well, now I have to talk
Yeah,
about
tell me
Haunted
about the
Mansion:
Haunted
Call of the
Mansion game. I
Spirits.
have not played that.
I don't know why I just assumed that you had this. Yeah, so Haunted Mansion: Call of the Spirits. I was not prepared to talk about this, so I'm gonna riff it. But
Do it.
this game is really, really fun. Especially, I mean, I'm not even technically like a Haunted Mansion person.
Yeah.
Like, I like the aesthetic of it, but like you would be giddy,
Yes.
Penny. So beautiful, again, beautiful board design. I'm such a like nerd for
Oh, you
game
gotta have a
design.
good design.
So you're looking at the haunted mansion, more or
Mhm.
less, laid out. You can see all the rooms, and there's this kind of wheel in the middle. Um, and you are exploring the rooms and trying to collect the ghosts in the haunted
Ooh.
mansion. And really what you're trying to do is collect like different types. So there's like the musical ghosts or the
Mhm.
hatbox, or not the hatbox, the hitchhikers. So
Wait,
you're trying to
Hatbox Ghost is also a ghost.
he's in there, yeah.
Okay.
um but you're trying to collect like three of a kind or two of a kind of all these different types of ghosts. And at the end, the person who has the most of each type or whatever, like
Mhm.
basically, oh, if you get all three of these, they're worth 20 points, but if you only have two of them, they're worth 5 points apiece. Like you have
Mhm.
to try to kind of play strategy to figure out how you can get the most points. But you can also take these like haunt tokens um, that will can e- it's so much strategy because like if you have the most haunt tokens at the end, you get points, but then if you don't,
Mhm.
they count against you.
Okay.
So there's just like a lot of strategy, but it's really fun. Each round, like a haunt starts, and the hitchhiking ghosts move around the board, and whatever room they're in, you get, like damage if you're in that room. The board like spins, which is very fun.
Mhm.
So if you're a haunted mansion person, this is like a must, honestly. And now, Penny, I know what I'm getting you for your birthday next month. Uh,
Mm.
this is just a real blast, and it's like also just a beautiful collector's piece for anybody who loves haunted mansion. It's got a lot of really great art and cute token pieces. Um, super super fun. I also have to stop here and shout out Andrew and Devin brought this game up to Kansas City one time, and I went out and bought it at Target the next day. I had so much fun playing it. But they did a series on their blog, Your Best Halloween Ever,
Mhm.
that was a spooky board game like
Yes.
night, and they've included some games that we're not going to talk about today. So if you are interested in even more information on some spooky board games, definitely check out that blog post as well on yourbesthalloweenever.com.
Yes, definitely. Shall we move on to video games,
Vidya
Midge?
games,
Video games?
yes.
So I feel I have not played a lot of horror or spooky games,
Mhm.
because I will throw up.
Oh, that's
So
right, your motion
a
issues,
lot
yeah.
of these games are first person perspective, and I
Hmm.
just simply cannot do it. But I do have a couple that I enjoy that are kind of different, I would say. So,
Sweet. Well, start us
do you
off.
want me to start? All right.
Yeah.
So the first one that I will recommend is Cult of the Lamb.
Mm,
Um, so this was came out last year or two
okay.
years ago, I think. Um, so this is definitely like a spooky cute kind of game
Oh,
with
fun.
rogue-like elements, in which you are a little lamb and you are starting a cult. And as you gain power, you can make decrees for your followers, perform human sacrifices. Well, technically not human sacrifices because you're all little woodland critters, but
Oh my god, I
perform
just I gave it a goog. The art is so cute.
It's so cute.
Very like
Definitely.
Adventure Time, Gravity
Mhm.
Falls vibes.
Yeah, definitely dark themes. But if you are cool with that, it was a blast to play. I really like a roguelike kind of setup, and this one's also fun because you also get to you have to like set up and maintain your like little cult camp. So you have to like build places for your followers to sleep. And your follower and like sometimes they'll if you make bad food for them, they'll throw up and people have to clean the throw up. And after you kill
Oh.
people, you can make like I made a little graveyard for all of my peeps because you can't just leave the dead bodies around because that decreases people's happiness.
Of course, yeah.
So it is a super fun game, and I recommend it.
I'm gonna have to check that out. I'd never heard of that. That's fun.
Yeah.
Well, my first one is one you can't play, Penny. I'm so sorry.
Wah, wah.
But still to this day, my favorite horror game I have ever played, Until Dawn.
Mm.
This was a pretty big name in the horror video game world, so many of you have probably played it if you're video game people. It came out in 2015. But this is like an interactive drama horror game that is a butterfly effect game, so every choice that you make affects the outcome of
Ooh.
the game. And it's just like rendered really, really beautifully, so you feel like you're watching a horror movie most of the time. um it's very like, five teens in a cabin in the woods situation. But there's also multiple big bads happening, which is kind of fun. You've kind of got a slasher element, you've got a bit of an urban legend folklore element happening. And just it's really exciting because, much like we were talking about with Betrayal at House on the Hill, depending on what choices you make, it can be a different game every time you play through it. And you're playing as multiple different characters. You get to play as
Ooh.
all the different teens at different points, and kind of you're looking for clues and discovering totems and things in the woods. It's just a really, if you're a person who loves horror movies and you've always wanted to be in a horror movie, this is a really fun way to kind of live out that dream. Um, and it's honestly very, very spooky scary at some points. It got me a few times with some good jump scares. So and you can unfortunately die as well. So it's not just a playthrough. There are pretty high stakes involved
Yeah.
at times too.
Fascinating. Yeah, my other one is also probably kind of a cheater one, but it's Vampire Survivors,
Ooh, what's that?
which is like a it's a so this came out in 2022, I think, so it's another modern one. It is kind of like a bullet hell roguelike. You one does not have like plot that you have to go through. You get to pick your character. You're a little guy, and
You're just a little guy.
and there are just constantly monsters coming after you, and you pick up different weapons, and you can upgrade your weapons, and the weapons all like auto fire, so you're trying to like create a build where eventually if you're strong enough, like you can just like walk around and it just like slaughters all these waves of monsters that are coming for you
Oh dang.
as you're doing stuff. So like there's ones that like suck in different things, there's like Bibles, and then there's also like combos where if you like fully upgrade two different weapons at the same time, they become like an even better one. um and it's a 30-minute time limit, so each
Oh
like
wow.
round is 30 minutes and you are just trying to survive for 30 minutes to win.
Hence Vampire Survivors.
It's Vampire Survivors. It's very goofy. It's a little goofy, but it's just super compelling. It's very simple, but I got super deep into it.
Hey, I've watched people play that cookie clicker game.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't have to be all that. It can just be straightforward.
Yes.
When you said a cheater game, I thought you were going to be like, my next one is Animal Crossing, which is spooky if you choose.
It's spooky if you choose it. Man, it used to be. So this is actually, see, now you brought up Animal Crossing.
Now I've done it.
You sparked on a specific thing, which is I think people have done it now more, but even before the new Animal Crossing came up, there was a big trend for like creating horror islands
Oh,
in
yeah.
the previous version. And
Uh-huh.
Caitlin actually wrote an article for like a Japanese like pop culture
Oh, how cool.
interesting site about like 10 like amazing like horror themed Animal Crossing islands.
Oh, hell
So
yeah.
super cool. But that was not what I it was not that much of a cheat.
Well, that's I mean, my Animal Crossing island is called Halloween,
Well,
so
there you go.
I also have a graveyard and a spooky cult wood setup,
Yes.
uh so my last one for video games is again a big one. Everybody knows about it. This is I'm not bringing you any new information, but I still want to talk about it cuz I love to play. That's Dead by Daylight.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, Dead by Daylight's a multiplayer online game. That's honestly my favorite part about it is that it is multiplayer. It's
Mhm.
very fun to. I mean, multiplayer video games are virtual board games, more or less,
Yes.
right? Like, um, so if you've not played this, it's super fun. You can either play on PC or console, and you are playing basically out like a slasher movie. But the fun thing about this is you can either play as one of the four survivors or you can play as the killer.
Mm.
Um, and everybody in game is being played by a real person. So that's I mean you can do like bot killer if you want, but
Yeah.
it's really fun to play in full groups. You get to select your little survivor. Everybody has, things that they're good at, things that they bring to the table, good stats and things. Um, I really like this game because of the unique killer designs.
Yeah,
Um,
I have not played it, but I see so many of the really interesting, like, things that they do in there, and it seems really cool.
Yeah, it is like, and I'm not really a cosplayer. I don't do cons and things per se,
Yeah.
but it is a dream of mine to cosplay. There's this killer called the Huntress in Dead by Daylight who's this like masked rabbit woman, and she has this like ripped up kind of like bohemian dress. I don't know, she's super cool and she like sings to lure you in.
Ooh.
She's very creepy and she like chucks an axe. She's super cool. Very hard to play as too, in my opinion. She's one of the like more challenging killers to do well, but um so yeah, I love this game. You can also they've added lots of mods in the past where you can play as like Ghostface, Jason. They've even added like for the survivors there was like a Stranger Things mod for a while where you could
Mm,
play as like
yeah.
Robin and Steve, and it's a lot of fun if you want to get a group of gang together. Of course, I got really into this because when we all couldn't go outside for like
Yes.
2 years. This was a really fun way to play a spooky game with your friends, and I mean, it's got great suspense. It's got a good soundtrack, and you're trying to basically you're stuck in this zone, and you're all trying to like repair generators to get a gate to
Mm,
open before the killer gets you. But if the killer gets you or one of your teammates, they have a few attempts to like put you on these sacrificial hooks, and you
ooh.
have to keep an eye on what you're doing trying to fix the generators, but you can also save your friends from the hooks, and
Yeah.
it's a whole thing. It's very fun. uh Go play it. Go play with me sometime. I'll be online. You
Midge is there.
can find me.
Alright, well, our final category is, like, tabletop slash
Mhm.
role play games, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
something that the 2 of us are both very into. Um, and I feel like obviously like D&D itself can be a horror game. There
Right.
are, iconic like Curse of Strahd, and other kind of things. You can create anything in Dungeons and Dragons. So any of it
Yeah.
could be horror. But there are also games that are kind of specifically horrifying.
Yeah. I was gonna say you might have like a small gnome character who's a necromancer and owns a graveyard. I mean,
For
you might.
example,
I don't.
a wild
Yeah,
example.
crazy.
All right. Well, I think
Yeah.
Midge knows what I want to say for my first one,
Yeah. Go
uh,
for it.
which is 10 Candles, which I feel
Yeah.
like I am like the world's greatest like 10 candle spokeswoman. I tell people about this all the freaking time. I am
Mhm.
constantly like, have you heard of 10 candles?
And I
Um
hadn't until you told
and
me,
you
and I
hadn't, and I was delighted to hear. I also informed our friend Matt Woods about this, and he did play, which
I
is
still haven't played.
wonderful.
Ah!
So 10 Candles is a tragic horror game, a low prep RP game. So basically, the concept here is that at the end of the game, everyone will be dead. There is no winning and no
There's no
surviving.
surviving.
There's no surviving this game. Um, I'm not going to go too deep into like the specifics of the rules, but the parts that people should want to know is you do literally light 10 candles in front of you. And as you are going through the game, candles get blown out. And once a candle is out, it's out forever. And when all of the candles are out, you are all dead. So it's very, and you are encouraged to play it in the dark. So it's very atmospheric. It's very moody. This is a great game if you are like not familiar with something like Dungeons and Dragons, because there's really like basically no system to it. It's mostly collaborative storytelling. You roll occasionally, but you don't have like stats or anything like that to keep
Yeah.
track of. And the players create their characters in the moment. There's an element where you put things on note cards about like what your deepest secret and what your strengths are, and you're able to burn those through the game in order to do different things. And it's
Ooh.
just very cool. It gives you a lot of freedom. I know people are like, you can play as a dog if you want to. Like, it doesn't matter. You can be anything. Um, and you are
You can
just
be the dog that played
you
Lassie.
can be the dog that played Lassie, for another wild example of something that a person could do. um, and it's very good. It can be very intense depending on how you play it. Like if you're a group that's like a little bit sillier, but I feel like even if you're in a silly group, it starts to get serious
Yeah.
as you go through it. Like you often start off a little bit silly, and then it's like, oh, things are getting literally darker as these candles are going out. Things are getting more serious. And it's just a very compelling experience, and I highly recommend it.
Oh, can't wait to play someday.
Yes, I want to play with you.
I know.
Mhm.
So my last one that I brought to the table, because like I mentioned, I put betrayal in this.
Yes.
So you and I went at this a bit differently. My tabletop like RPG is also like it, it's more really elaborate games that
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah, that so this one isn't so much RPG as it is like just a really committed like if you're a person who can get through Settlers of Catan,
If you're
this
a
is for
serious
you.
gamer.
If you're a serious tabletop gamer. So that the game I brought is Horrified. Um this game is really great, but it is involved. The setup alone takes like 15 minutes. Like it's a whole situation. But Horrified is a game, collaborative game, so you're playing with everybody at the
Mhm.
table. And you each kind of get a character at the beginning, dictated by a deck in the game that has again some sort of skill set. You're like a scientist or an archaeologist or whatever, and then you team up with the people at your table to fight an invasion of monsters.
Mm.
With Horrified, the original pack specifically, you are fighting the universal monsters.
Oh, fun, fun, fun.
um, and actually, I have a silly, goofy little tale about this. I got this game as a birthday gift from my friend Parker, and because he knows I'm a game girly, and I played it for the first time finally with Devin and Andrew when they were in town, and we didn't fully read the instructions. And there was specifically a part that was like, if this is your first time playing, do not play
Don't do
with
this.
more than 2 monsters. Like you should only be fighting 2 monsters. We did it with all like 6 of them because we were like, yeah, why not? It's going to be super fun. It was not super fun. We got our shit pushed in and it took like 3.5 hours. But the game is actually very, very fun. And what's neat about this is they have different expansion packs now, or different games.
Hmm.
So now I also own Horrified American Monsters, which is all cryptids. You're
Ooh,
fighting
good stuff.
cryptids. So that's really fun. Um, Definitely not for the inexperienced gamer,
Yeah,
but if you're a hardcore tabletop person, this is a really fun, very specifically horror themed game.
I love that. My last thing is actually a game that I have not played yet, but
Oh,
I very
okay.
much want to, which is Candela Obscura, which is
Oh.
the new horror kind of game from Critical Role. Um,
Oh, sure.
so the team there created the system. It's very much we we somewhat recently have talked about people who maybe like the vibes of Lovecraft without the
Without the racist undertones?
unsavory racist undertones. And Candela is very much like a very cool, like gas lampy Victorian world with this kind of cosmic horror, eldritch horror vibe to it, and it just looks incredibly cool. They have done several like live plays on the channel that I've watched, and it just seems like a really interesting and compelling game. This is one where just for to exemplify how this works, where like in a normal RPG, you know, you can take physical damage, but
Mhm.
this one has its own mechanic for taking mental damage, which might break your brain and make you go insane. Um,
Not hysteria.
from the cosmic horror of it all. So it seems really cool, and I would love to play. So if anyone I know is listening out there and wants to play Candela with me, let me know. So the concept of that is that you are part. Candela is this like secret society that is, you know, kind of protecting the world from these monstrous things, and so you play as like a little group, like a little team that's been sent to like deal with a specific supernatural threat.
Hell
um,
yeah.
and it seems like a lot of fun, and obviously like anything Victoriana is
Right.
right up my wheelhouse, so I
I was gonna
definitely
say, Penny, it's me listening. I would like to play.
yes, yes. Oh my gosh, we need like a game weekend, Midge, where we can just
Oh
play
no,
all
we
these
gotta.
games. We That's what we got to do. Every time we get together, it's like for something. We got to just hang out and play games sometime.
We played games last time. We did we did it.
We did play
But yeah,
games,
no,
but not
we
like
need to.
but not like intensive like role playing games.
Yeah, no, we need a whole weekend of RPG.
Yes, yes. Well, those are some of the spooky games that we
Yeah.
are fans of for spooky season or all year round. I mean, a spooky game is a great way to keep it creepy throughout the year.
Absolutely. I think it's almost more fun to play
Yes,
them not at Halloween time, because it gives you a moment of escape into the spooky lands of whatever game you so choose.
totally. All right. Well, thank you, friends, for joining us today. We would love to hear what spooky games you are fans of. So please feel free to come on over and find us on Instagram at Ghouls Night In Pod, where we post updates and all sorts of fun things. And if you are looking to find me, you can find me at Penny Snark.
And you can find me all over the web at Midge Munster.
And until next time,
Good.
good.